Welcome back. News and Talk 1380 WAOK, the voice of the community, people, passion, politics on this Sunday afternoon. Attorney Robert Patillo, Sean Garvey holding down on the ones and twos. Again, we are Patillo podcasting this week because I am on the road en route to talk to some semi-autonomous regions around the world. Primarily in Southern Europe. As I said, I'm going to be visiting Catalonia. For those who don't know about Catalonia, it's where Barcelona is located. And my wife, of course, and some friends are coming along with me. So it's funny because we're doing the filming part of things, of course, and doing the deep dive into some real journalism, putting together this documentary. My wife is on vacation. My wife is about to be in the market in Barcelona. When we go to Corsica, she's about to be in a Gessio at the beachside resort, drinking wine. When we're in France, she's going to the vineyard. She's like, you do whatever the political thing is that you're doing. That's one thing I do love about spouses. They don't really be caring that much about the details of what you be doing and how you do it. No, they give you the kind of the gentle head nod when you're explaining to them what your plan is. Like, yeah, cool. Meanwhile, there's like, we got a cafe, got a restaurant, got a Cinque Terre. Like, we about to knock this thing on out. So it's going to be interesting. But a few people have asked me when I told them about this plan, about this idea, well, why pick those places? Why pick those regions? And it's because those are the hot spots right now that are on the verge of having near independence. And so when we're talking about what we're trying to achieve for Black folks here in this country, we have to look at models that are working. Because there, of course, is a negative side to having semi-autonomous region. If you think about it, Indian reservations are technically semi-autonomous regions. They have their own laws, they have their own economics, and various tribes have differing levels of success with that. Some are very successful, having gaming preserves, having casinos, having the access to markets that have really been able to prop them up and make them millionaires, in some cases billionaires. Other areas, you have high rates of alcoholism, high rates of drug use, high rates of homelessness. They've really destroyed those cultures and society. So it's not enough just to be free. The question is free to do what and free how? Later on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the situation going on in Haiti this week, where the UN and the Kenyans are going to be sending in as many as 1,000 peacekeepers to try to restore order there after the U.S.-led assassination of the president a couple years ago, and the descent into chaos has happened since then. So that's a free and independent country. But when you have outside forces that continue to exert power, that continue to sanction them, that continue to control the economics and control the politics there within, then are you really free? So I want to make sure that, as Dr. King once said, I don't want to integrate my people into a burning building. I don't want to be walking our way and leading us into the failed Liberian experiment, for example, that happened when they tried to expatriate Africans back to the continent during the 19th century. Well, they put us there, but they didn't prepare us for success. They did not integrate us with the society. We went there. We ended up acting the same way that the colonizers had taught us to act towards them. So it's not simply enough to have the land and have the area and have the space. You have to see how to actually run those things. And that's what I want to find out in places like Catalonia, in places like Corsica, where they really have gone to the precipice of getting this done and finding out how exactly to build those things from the bottom up and from the ground up. It helps, of course, to have a historical basis to it. Corsica has always been the most independent island in the Mediterranean, regardless of who, quote unquote, owns them or controls them. The Corsican language is their own language. The food there is their own food. They don't give a damn really about France or Italy or anybody else. They're their own area. And that's kind of the idea that we have to have when it comes to African American culture here. We need to start seeing ourselves as an ethnic group more so than a race. Race simply indicates it's a European-made conceptualization of who you are based on the color of your skin. It doesn't really mean much. But when you think about about an ethnic group, you have to look at the idea of having a shared language, a shared religious tradition, shared holidays, shared heroes, shared legacy. Those are the things that make you part of an ethnic group. And I've made the argument that African Americans are the largest ethnic group in the world, perhaps besides the Kurds, to not have their own independent or semi-autonomous state, which they can call their own. And we look at the late 19th century and the string of nationalism that really went from the Crimean War all the way up until World War II or World War One, and then by proxy World War II. It was all about ethnic groups coming together and forming Yugoslavia for the Slavs, forming other nations there, or Serbia for the Serbs, etc. And so when you're looking at African Americans and not having that form of statehood for themselves, it makes it very difficult for us to, for example, if we're a semi-autonomous region that still has seats in Congress, for example, then you can set out and not just have a congressional black caucus that has to talk about everybody and what we're going to do for everything. Then you can have a congressional black caucus that can be representing the states of the new African American Union that exist, and that can advocate specifically for the interests of those communities. That don't have to worry about anybody else. That will be able to, as we saw this week, and we're going to get into that after this segment, will be able to control government from a minority position, and will be more effective in pushing through policies when the only people you have to worry about are your own people, for example. And so when we're talking about building those things out, we have the intellectual heavyweights that are behind it. We have the scholarly works and scholarly papers that exist. We have the geographical area. We have the economics to make it happen. The only thing that we don't truly have right now is the plan, the impetus to put it in place. Because the other great thing about the creation of a semi-autonomous region versus petitioning for reparations from the national government is you can do it yourself. Because think about it. The only thing that really has to happen in order for that to take place is everybody just start moving. Everybody just up and move from the south up north during the Great Migration. That's why everybody in Detroit and on the south side of Chicago, they got accents like they're from Mississippi. They walked in a straight line up there. You went out west, etc. But if you have that same Great Migration back down south, back to one concentrated area, and we're seeing that happen right now with black folks moving from the industrial Midwest back to Atlanta, back to Birmingham, back to Charlotte, back to parts of Florida, etc. Well, let's just concentrate all that into one particular region. And once you concentrate the majority of the 40 million African Americans in this country into one particular region, just as we've built up Atlanta, we can build up other cities and make that our capital. You'll have control of ports, you'll have control of airports, and you can simply vote in your own semi-autonomous region. You can simply vote in your own reparations because you'll have control to do so. And this is one of the models that has taken place in Catalonia in the south of Spain, for example, because the Catalonians had the opportunity to leave the region and explore the rest of Spain, the rest of Europe. But a big thing that they've done is all come back home to repatriate their own area, which has given them the political strength to petition Parliament in order to recognize the Catalonian language. They have the economics to be able to control much of the policies to take place in that country. So when you're talking about building, you have to look at comparative models of people who have been successful at what you're trying to do. It's not simply this question of inventing the new things. One of my mentors, Gary Flowers, told me when I was in college, he said, everything under the sun has been done. You just have to do it better. So when we're looking at these international comparative models, we have to look at ways that we can do it better here. And the first thing to do, you have to travel the world to see how people are doing it, to see what things are working and what things are not working, to see where people are thriving and seeing where people are barely surviving. I gave the example earlier, the difference between Catalonia and Corsica, where things are going well, versus Nagorno-Karabakh in between Armenia and Azerbaijan, where the Armenians are petitioning the international community, claiming that the Azerbaijanis are ethnically cleansing Nagorno-Karabakh of the ethnic Armenians. and that without the protection of the Central Security Treaty Organization, the CSTO, the Russian version of NATO, they have absolutely no ability to protect ethnic Armenians from the attacks from the Azerbaijanis, who are under the protectorate of Turkey, and Turkey doesn't want Armenia there either. When you really think about what happened in World War I with the Armenian genocide, that Turkey still does not talk about. So you have a nation of Armenians who on the one side have the Turkish, who attempted to wipe them out a century ago, and on the other side you got the Azerbaijanis who are trying to wipe them out currently. Their security guarantor has always been Russia, who's right now distracted. Well, that leaving the people in Nagorno-Karabakh fleeing by the thousands. I actually wanted to go visit there, but of course, because it's a war zone, flights and hotels weren't exactly available, in case you're wondering. But that's an example of what can happen when these things go wrong, when they go poorly. When you position people and set them up to fail, you give them the land, you give them freedom, but if you don't give them protection and opportunity and the ability to prosper, then it's not just a simple 1, 2, 3 type of situation. And that's why it's so crucial for us. And that's why I encourage all of you to get out there and travel, to see the world, to not just look at American media, to not just look at the propaganda being shoveled down your throat. All of the things that happened this week to Americans, the most important thing on earth, to the rest of the world is just a sideshow, because they got real things to worry about. We're going to talk more about this after the break, and we can get to Congress. We'll be back. You're listening to News and Talk 1380 WAOK, the voice of the community.